In this video, I want to share with you how you can make a better impact on someone else's life. So what does the word impact mean? Impact means to add value to someone. The more value I add to someone, the greater impact I'm making on their life. So to understand impact, we must understand the word value. And value is what someone perceives as important. For example, as a basketball player, I see as important working out, eating right, so I can become a better basketball player. So to add value to my life, someone could help me in that area. They could tell me, hey, you want to shoot better, put your elbow under your shot and follow through. They're giving me advice. And what they're doing is adding value to an area I perceive as important. In a similar way, if you're watching this video, I'm guessing you want to become more influential. You want to make a better impact on someone's life. So by me giving you information, I'm adding value to you. I'm helping you to get something you perceive as important. And that's the same thing we need to do to other people. If we want to make a better impact, we have to add more value. But in order to do that, you must understand what someone perceives as important. So how can we know what someone else values? Well, the first way is pretty obvious, and that's you ask the person what they value. I'm in college, and one easy question to ask people to start a conversation is, hey, what's your major? A lot of people ask this question. It's a good question to start off at, but I like asking this question afterwards. Hey, why did you pick that major? What I'm doing is I'm hitting at their value. They may say something like, yo, my dad told me to take this, or hey, I think it has a broad area that can go in the job field at. I'm getting at why they do what they do. I'm asking them, and by asking them, I understand what's important to them. So then I can impact their life by saying, hey, I'm gonna give you advice in that area. Or hey, I know someone who can help you in that area, right? Because I know it's important, I can then add value in that area. So the first way is asking them what's important to them. And that way you can hit that area and make a better impact. And the second thing people value is their necessities. Food, clothes, water, this is what people need. And because they need it, they obviously perceive it as important. And this is how people normally see adding value to other people. They see it as, hey, I need to meet this person's needs. That's how I saw it. I believe God blessed me with a great purpose. I may be wrong. I'm not saying this is like concrete, right? But this is what I truly believe. I was in 6th grade and we were going I was at church and we were worshiping God, and some youth pastor came to me. It was a youth service, and he was like, hey, Austin, God told me, I'm not exactly sure God told him this, but this is what he said. God told me, whether or not you make it to the NBA, your purpose is to impact millions of lives, right? So I had that perception on life saying, hey, this is why I'm here. This is what I want to go after. And this is what I want to tell other people about. I want to tell other people how they can make a better impact on people's lives, how they can become more influential, because that's something I want to do myself. And I tell you that because one thing I used to see as making impact is simply meeting someone else's needs. How can I go to Africa or some other place where I can say, hey, I'm going to give you guys water, I'm going to give you guys food so I can meet your needs and make an impact on those people's lives. And I would have to do that to millions of people in order to fulfill my perceived purpose that I believe God gave me. Not concrete, right? I'm not saying exactly that's what happened, but that's what I believe it is, right? And because of that perception, I'm now limited in a sense. Because in order to meet someone's needs by giving them food, by giving them water, I'd have to have money. I would have to have opportunity to do so, right? I need a plane ticket, I need a Visa card. So I have all these barriers to make an impact on someone's life. And that's what happens when we attack other people's needs. We know people need water, they need food, they need clothing, right? So we say, hey, I know you value this, so I'm gonna impact you by adding value in that area. That's true. However, it can be difficult to impact them in that way because, like I said, there's limits to it. You don't have unlimited money, and we don't have unlimited time and opportunity. So we can't necessarily give them all their needs all the time. Another thing about trying to meet other people's needs and impact them in that way is that when their needs are met, you can't impact them at the same level. For example, after I work out, I like working out, and one thing I need is water. I need water after I work out, or else I get kind of tired and I try to read afterwards and I just fall asleep sometimes. Like one time I was reading, and I had a bowl of oatmeal. I was eating some oatmeal, and I fell asleep and my head went inside the oatmeal. Right? That's what happens when I'm tired. Even if I'm reading and eating, I can still fall asleep, right? So I need water after working out. And if that's a necessity that I have. It's a perceived important, what I perceive as important. So if someone gave me a bottle of water after working out, they've now made a big impact on my life because they added value in an area I felt I had a need. However, after I drink some water, I may drink, let's say 2 bottles, I then don't need more water. So if someone said, hey, Austin, I got a Powerade for you, right? I'm like, okay, I'll accept it, right? But they're adding less value to me, even though they're meeting my need, because my need has already been met. In a similar way, when we attack other people's needs, we're restricted by time frames. We meet their needs, but then it takes time for them to need that need again. We give them food, and then may take another hour or so, a few hours, for them to want more food, and we can impact them in that way. So there's another value we can add to people that we can continue to make an impact on their life other than necessities. And this is what I call a social value. It's like having equality, right? I think about MLK. He said, I have a dream, right? And his dream came true. I'm a black man and I have an opportunity to impact other people's lives because of a man who had a dream. See, people back then had a value of equality, right? We still have that value, right? But racial equality. And it was they didn't have it back then, right? So it was a great necessity. It was a great perceived importance. And that's one of the reasons why MLK and other social right leaders had such an impact on people's lives back then, because they hit at a value. People valued equality, right? They were deprived of that. So it produced a greater motivation for it. See, when we're deprived of stuff, that produces motivation. The best time to, ask someone if they want a steak is not after they eat the steak, it's before they eat the steak. Why? Because they're deprived of food. They want food more, and that gives them more motivation. So back then, they had a deficit of that. They see other people, the whites, not to be, racist terms, it's just what I'm saying. The whites, they had great superiority over the blacks. So that produced a great deficit, a great depravity of equality. So they had a greater value of that. And that's where MLK and other rights leaders came in. They said, hey, I have a dream. Hey, I'm going to make sure these people have equality with those people. And that's how they made such an impact on other people's lives. Especially since back then, like I said, they're so deprived of it. Right now, we have that. We have that social equality. Right back then, they didn't have it. So they had a greater value of it. They had more motivation to have it. And that is why they can make such an impact, that if they're around right now saying, hey, we need social equality, well, there is social equality, right? So they don't have the same opportunity to make an impact. But that's another area we can make an impact. That's social values, like equality, like just being recognized, being approved by other people. We all want that sense of attention and approval of others. It all depends from where you get that approval. Some people, like for me, for example, I used to find that approval in basketball. I love basketball, like I said, and if I played good, I felt good. If I played bad, I felt worse, right? So I was trying to get my sense of approval from then. I had a social value of approval, and I sought it in basketball. Thing is, that's not where we seek approval. We should seek approval from God. That's the approval we should seek after. And guess what? When we place our heart's desire on God, we have self-control to do the things that are pleasing to God, and then by having that, we'll be more influential on other people. What do I mean by that? Well, if my heart's desire, if the thing I want approval of, and the thing I love most is something like basketball, I'm going to have self-control in the areas that pertain to basketball. I'm going to have self-control to eat right, to sleep right, to work out, because those things help me to fulfill my heart's greatest desire. However, I'll have less control in the things that pertain to sin if they help me to become a better basketball player. For example, if lying or cheating or stealing can make me a better basketball player, well, I'm going to be greatly tempted to do those things because they align with my heart's greatest desire. And by doing those things, I'll have worse integrity. I'll have a worse reputation. I'll have less character. And by having less character, I now don't have the same opportunity to make an impact and influence other people in the right way because of my loss of credibility. On the other hand, when I place my heart desire in God, I have self-control in all things. That's because lying and cheating and stealing and other sins don't help me to fulfill my heart's greatest desire. And that naturally leads to better character. And by having better character, you can lead by example and influence others in a positive way. And that leads to the final, and I would say the most impactful way to add value to someone else, to impact their life. And that is by first controlling what you can control. I love watching motivational videos and seeing different stories of how hard they work to reach their goals. And one person I listen to is David Goggins. You know, David Goggins, he was a former Navy SEAL and he had a lot of weight. Let's say he was like 300 pounds or something. And he lost all that weight and he's now really strong. He runs marathons and stuff. And that story motivates me. I see, man, this guy could do all this stuff and he's running, try marathons, whatever. He's running like 200 miles, 100 miles races. I'm like, this guy used to be fat and now he's running. That's inspiring. And what that does is inspires me to now have action, to now control what I can control so I can become better at what I value. I take David Goggins, for example. I see how great he is at running and his motivation, and I take that and I transfer that motivation, I transfer that mental toughness, I transfer that belief system to what I value, which is basketball. So I say, okay, David Goggins works hard. I want to work hard in basketball. Right? So that's the message I have for you. That's how you can impact other people's lives. It's not dependent upon money or opportunities like meeting someone's necessities is, and it's not dependent on opportunities like social needs are. It's just dependent on what you do. When you work hard, when you speak right, when you have character, when you control what you can control, you inspire others and you add value to others, not because you know what they value, not because you're hitting exactly what they value, not even because you're working hard in the area they value. You're simply working hard in what you do, and by doing that, they're now inspired to do the same in what the area they value is. Let me explain it like this. Michael Phelps, no question, the greatest swimmer ever, right? And I see how hard he works, right? He eats like 8,000 calories a day, and he works for like 6 hours a day just swimming, right? So I see his motivation. I see how well he controls what he can control. And I'm like, yo, that inspires me to now say, hey, I want that same mindset because I want to reach my goals. So I apply his work ethic to what I want to do, which is become a better basketball player. So because he has control, he can control, inspires me to do the same in the area I perceive as important. And that's what we all can do. If we control what we can control, we inspire others to do the same. In fact, I actually wrote a book on this. It's called Controlling the Controllable, How Anyone Can Become Influential. And in that book, I lay out the principles of becoming influential that I talked about in this video. It's the fact that when we control what we can control, we inspire others to do the same. And that's why I say anyone can become influential, because anyone can control their thoughts, their actions, and their responses. Anyone can control that, and by controlling it well, like Michael Phelps does, like David Goggins does, like LeBron James does, by controlling it well, you can then inspire other people to also control what they can control better in the areas they perceive as important. That's how you impact lives. That's how you become influential. When you control what you can control, you can inspire others to do the same. Anyone can do it. It just takes a decision. And I want you to make the decision to buy my book. It's on Amazon. If you want to learn how to become more influential, how to make a better impact on other people's lives, I promise you, if you do the things that are in the book, you will succeed in that aim. You will become influential because it's based upon principles, and principles always work. So check out that book if you want to. I also put the link in the description so you can buy it on Amazon if you like to. Also, if you're still here, thank you. That's amazing. And please, if you have any suggestions, any comments, let me know. I want to get better at YouTube. I truly do want to get good at making videos, become a good speaker. So let me know anything I can improve on, any recommendations, and hopefully I see you guys soon. Like I said, I teach people how they can become more influential.